Welcome to this video about exploring and risk assessing pupils who may be at risk of EBSA, part 2 of 3. Recognising some common indicators of EBSA. There are many possible indicators of EBSA across the following key areas: attendance, patterns of work, peer relationships, adult relationships, school belonging, personal factors, physical factors, and environmental factors. Some indicators intersect with risk factors. Indicators of EBSA. Attendance. Considering attendance indicators. Are they reluctant to leave the house in the mornings? Late for school? Missed lessons? Absent for parts of the day? Absent for holidays? And pattern in absences, for example, particular days and/or subjects after weekends and holidays. Indicators of EBSA. Patterns of work. Considering patterns of work indicators. Appears disengaged and/or not confident with learning tasks. Reluctant to contribute to class discussions. Does not produce homework. Or making limited progress. Indicators of EBSA. Peer relationships. Considering peer relationship indicators. Falls out easily with friends. Been bullied. Appears isolated, or avoids interaction with peers. Indicators of EBSA. Adult relationships. Considering adult relationship indicators, are they unwilling to talk to adults about a problem? Reluctant to engage with teacher support? Speaks negatively about some teachers in the school? Or confrontations with some school staff? Indicators of EBSA. Personal factors. Considering indicators relating to personal factors. Appears to have low confidence or self-esteem. Presents as shy, quiet, or passive. Seems withdrawn or shows feelings of low mood. Appears anxious, tearful, or tense. Demonstrates aggressive outbursts. Demonstrates obsessive behaviours, for example, overly tidy, having set routines, etc. Or presents with social communication and interaction difficulties, or has been diagnosed with autism. Indicators of EBSA. Physical factors. Considering indicators relating to physical factors. Had or has a medical condition. Complains of sickness. Complains of headaches. Experienced rapid weight gain or loss. Experienced changes in their eating habits. Or shows physical symptoms of anxiety, for example sweating and a fast heart rate, etc. Indicators of EBSA. Environmental factors. Considering indicators relating to environmental factors. Attends or attended a small primary school. Experienced a major transition. Experienced a deterioration in family relationships. A family member or members avoiding school, current or historic. Illness or bereavement of a friend or family member. Exposed to domestic violence, current or historic. Showing signs of possible separation anxiety from primary caregivers. Been the victim of abuse. Or experienced a significant change to home circumstances. Triggers for undertaking exploratory work. When significant risk factors and indicators of EBSA are identified, it is vital to then gather more specific information from the pupil, their parents, carers, and school staff as soon as possible. A proactive, personalised approach to this work, part of the Assess, Plan, Do, Review cycle, can prevent EBSA from becoming entrenched, improving the pupil's short-term and longer-term outcomes. Talking with the pupil about their feelings. Although not always immediately possible, it is ideal to first seek the views of the pupil by talking with them about their feelings. It is also helpful if the adult talking to them has a good understanding of special educational needs, especially social, emotional and mental health, SEMH, as well as safeguarding, including risk assessing, a good relationship with the pupil, or if not, the ability to gain their trust fairly quickly, and sufficient time and space to carry out this work with the pupil. We will now think about what topics might be talked about and what resources might help to facilitate this conversation. Topics to possibly talk about with the pupil. Because EBSA is complex and each pupil is a unique individual, there is no schedule of fixed questions. It is useful, however, to think about topics and possible prompts to develop an understanding of the pupil's views. Broadly, these topics centre around the pupil's life in two domains: in school, usually the main focus, and outside of school. The topics and prompts we will briefly outline are not in any particular order. Talking about life in school. Before asking specific questions relating directly to EBSA, it is usually helpful to initially work with the pupil to review their school life, including lessons on their timetable and the other, less structured activities that take place outside of lessons as part of their routine schedule. The core aims here are to undertake a sorting exercise so that you can understand whether the pupil is experiencing anxieties in lessons, and if so, which ones, and/or outside of lessons, and if so, when, what types of activities and aspects, and identify which lessons and parts of school are okay or better and do not make the pupil feel so anxious. A good place to start is to prompt or ask them to talk about how they feel about school in general at the moment. Then drill down to the components, the different lessons, including subjects on their timetable, and the various activities during different parts of the day. Talking about life in school. When talking with the pupil, some of these topics might be explored. Talking about lessons. How do they see themselves as a learner? What are their strengths? What do they find more difficult? What lessons do they like relative to others? Are there lessons that they do not like to be in? How do peers make them feel in lessons? What do they think teachers think of them? Talking about activities outside of lessons. What aspects of school life outside of lessons do they look forward to, or at least feel are okay and not a problem? Are there aspects that they do not look forward to? How do they evaluate the quality or security of their friendships? Do they feel that there are peers available to them across the school day who they can rely on? Who do they like to spend time with? And what is the journey into and out of school like for them? Talking about life in school. As themes emerge when talking with the pupil, it's important to A. Note the main protective factors and strengths in school, and B. Start to drill down to the hotspots, i.e. what could be triggering their anxious thoughts and feelings. There are a wide range of potential triggers. Each pupil is different, and no assumptions should be made. Triggers in lessons are likely to be experienced more in some lessons than others, and could include, for example, reading aloud, performing, presenting, etc. in front of the class, being asked questions by the teacher, the poor behaviour of other pupils and the teacher's reaction to this, classwork following instructions, timed activities, etc., and working with peers in groups. Triggers outside of lessons could include, for example, walking in the corridors or lining up when it's busy and noisy, the time before school starts, break times and lunch times, including eating in front of others, having to change their clothes in front of others, the school toilets, and assemblies. Talking about life outside of school. It is helpful to talk with the pupil about their life outside of school if they're prepared to do this. When talking with the pupil, some of these topics might be explored. What do they spend their time doing outside of school? Who do they spend a lot of time with? How would they describe their family? What are some good things about their family? Are they close to some people more than others? Are there aspects of family life that make them feel worried? What are their routines like on school days? For example, how do they get ready in the morning? What is it like to leave home each day? And what do they like and dislike about the area they live in? Some general pointers. Here are just a few pointers for staff talking with a pupil. Try to use the pupil's own words. Work from their statements. For example, you said you didn't like it when it's noisy. I'm wondering where it's too noisy for you. Ask open questions. For example, how do you feel about X? Rather than leading questions. For example, are you worried about X? Or why questions. Use specific language if this helps to contain the question. For example, could you tell me 3 things about X? See if you can gather further descriptive information. For example, can you tell me a bit more about that? So what happens during this part of the day? What do you see and hear? Try to drill down to specifics. For example, I'm wondering which bit of the playground is making you worried. And try to explore their feelings at a deeper level when possible. For example, if this happened, how do you think you would feel then? I'm wondering what would then need to happen for you to feel differently. This is the end of this video. Part 3 on this topic is now available to watch. You can view more videos on this channel in the EBSA Essentials series.